Hello everybody and welcome to the Catalan Grand Prix, and the warm-up session is about to get underway, so we're all set to go. Let's hand you over as well to our leading commentary lineup as well as we get ready for the 10 minutes of warm-up. We'll head over to the world feed.
Massimo, good morning everyone. Massimo walked to pit lane this morning, my natural habitat, and
Yeah.
Group and strong group with the good thing is that every year we improve the performance on the bike. It means that we understand what we are doing. That is the key. But important is today. First of all, yesterday was just a sprint without points, and so I want to see the two Aprilias on the podium today. Maybe three, it would be even better, but still early.
you're very humble, Massimo, and you're right, it's about a championship, but I still feel everyone looking at your machine here. You can be proud of that. Speaking of today, what are your concerns? Before I let you go back to work, your concerns, I heard a lot of talk about rear tyre, how the circuit punishes it. It sounds like everyone has to run the medium rear tyre, but a lot of talk of front tyre consumption as well.
I'm concerned about the start and the first corner, because already in the past we saw everything. And then I'm concerned about the front tires really, more than the rear one. At the end of the rear, it's easier to manage for the rider. The front is something, unless you are in front, but only one can be in front. So there will be one happy and 20 guys unhappy. So especially the Aprilians suffered a lot yesterday, the front tires.
Massimo, I really want to wish you the best of luck as a couple of raindrops fall on our heads. And I'll let you get back to work. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Aprilia boss Massimo Rivaldi. Yeah, of course, we've been talking up the prospects of maybe a double Aprilia podium for the factory team of Aleix Spargo and Viñales. It could well be a Aprilia lockout this afternoon, because Miguel Oliveira, for just the second time in his MotoGP career, 77th start this weekend, finds himself on the front row of the grid. Now, it was interesting there talking to Massimo Rivola. There was a lot of riders, in particular Miguel Oliveira and Maverick Viñales, that were at pains to point out just how severe the wear was, the excessive wear on their front tyres in that sprint. Yes, over 12 laps, of course. It's double the laps this afternoon in the main Grand Prix. So front tyre issues were a big concern, with the probably hotter conditions as Bagnaia gets a little bit of the Ducati twisting itself in knots. There are rain spots falling, and we weren't expecting this. We thought it was going to be a full dry race day. Of course, coming back to the front tyres, as well as the double the race distance, you're going to be carrying a lot more fuel as well as for the early laps. A lot more weight being put on that front tyre. So there was graining. I think Marc Marquez talked about. That's why he dropped back after a good early fight. But Viñales didn't feel like he had the front confidence to really throw it on the inside of Bagnaia late. And he did say fair play to Bagnaia, because he was defending rear guard action. Absolutely superb from the world champion. Miguel Oliveira, we saw him when he came in at the end of that sprint, having taken 6th place. He said his front tyre was completely destroyed after 7 or 8 laps. So something to keep a very, very close eye on as we move forward towards this afternoon's Grand Prix. There are the rain spots then falling in front of Fabio Quartararo.
Yeah, well, the phrase, if it doesn't rain, it pours, certainly applies to Fabio Quartararo at the moment, doesn't it? The way his weekend has gone. Ran the Joker helmet yesterday, but there was very little to put a smile on the 2021 World Champion's face. Qualified down in 17th place, which is not really a surprise anymore, sadly, given the season that he's had, but went backwards on the first lap of the sprint for much of it. Quartararo was running around in 20th place as Aleix Espargaro puts a hand up of an apology there as he outbraked himself into turn 1 and sent Mikel Oliveira wide onto the runoff. But Quartararo, in the end, was only able to salvage a lowly 18th place in the sprint. More difficult than even he expected.
Yeah, to exploit the Yamaha strong point, you need the corner speed. If you've got no grip like he has done all weekend, it's just a thankless task. This is Aleix Espargaro then on the inside. That's exactly where he made the key overtake to win the sprint here yesterday on Pecco Bagnaia. He was hands out immediately. Fully apologising there just in case he was running Oliveira out wide. Keep an eye on those two Aprilias though. Oliveira on the year-old RSGP. Because, of course, what you do learn in the sprint is a lot of data, information and knowledge that will help you make key decisions ahead of the 24-lap race this afternoon. What about Marc Marquez then? 11th place on paper, nothing to write home about really, but he was actually really, really happy. A flicker of light at the end of a very dark tunnel maybe, much faster than he expected in qualifying, having got a helping hand behind Jack Miller. And at one point in that sprint, he was pushing it at a decent rate of knots, but that pace on a Honda right now, it's just not sustainable. It's too risky. You can't stick your neck out like Marquez was doing for 1 or 2 laps to keep himself in the early hunt over 12 laps. He said it's just impossible. And then as soon as he became aware of draining on the right-hand side of that front tyre, like he wasn't the only rider that had that problem, he just backed off and brought it home. But there were actually, Lewis, a few sort of encouraging signs coming from the mouth of Marc Marquez yesterday. Almost, he said that battle he was having with his brother Alex Marquez, he was involved with Enea Bastianini for a while, Luca Marini and Fabio Di Gianantonio. It was almost like he needed that, good for his own morale and good for his own motivation, knowing that he still got what it takes. Bastianini's horrendous time at the Factory Ducati squad just rolls on. There's another problem for him in the first sector.
Yeah, his day wasn't already looking tough enough in Bastianini, because we remind you, if you weren't with us yesterday, he has to take a 3-place grid penalty into this afternoon's Grand Prix. He qualified in 11th place, but he got in the way of a couple of riders at the end of practice on Friday afternoon into turn 1, the very corner that he's crashed at in this morning's warm-up session. As a result of that, he was handed that 3-place penalty, which applies to this afternoon's Grand Prix, not to yesterday's sprint. So as a result, Enea Bastianini will start from 14th place on the grid this afternoon, and his day has already started with a crash.
It's been a very, very tough adaptation into that Factory Ducati squad this year. 24 points in 5 rounds since he returned from that serious right shoulder blade injury he suffered in the opening sprint of the season in Portimao. Fabio Quartararo then in the coolest conditions probably of the weekend so far. It's still very overcast. You can see from those onboard pictures from Pecco Bagnaia Ducati, it's certainly very windy. So Fabio Quartararo capitalising on the cool conditions where there's perhaps a little bit more grip around, because a 1:43.39 has put him top of this warm-up session, but that doesn't really matter, does it? It's when the big points are on the table this afternoon that really counts. As we mentioned, he can't exploit the corner speed of the Yamaha when he hasn't got the grit. And he said yesterday, fighting for the position he was disappointing. I'm sure there's a few expletives thrown in there, as well as Enea Bastianini goes all the way to the fence and just topples off the side. A very slow speed get-off then for the beast. Fabio himself actually said he almost has to shoulder a little bit of the blame himself, Liz, because when the grip is really low, he starts to force issue too much, get a little bit too aggressive, and then forcing the bike into place it won't go is when the mistakes creeping as well. So maybe he's got to smooth his riding style out a little bit as well to help the situation. And
also, in terms of Quartararo's MotoGP career so far, up until this year, he's just used to permanently being towards the front of the field, isn't he? It's a very different experience for Quartararo and Yamaha in general this season, and he's said on a few occasions this year, even saying in the second half of last year when the World Championship was starting to slip away from him, that he is sometimes guilty of overriding the bike to try and get around the problem. But Quartararo's got an awful lot of problems to try and ride around this afternoon. Simon, down to you. You've got some comments on Quartararo.
Yeah, just as he goes past here, you probably spotted on the screen there that he's gone back to the original aero that they started the year with. And, all weekend, this weekend, the last race as well, they run the new aero, it was in Silverstone. And this morning, one bike, which he's on right now, is completely back to the old stuff. No wings on the seat unit and the old wing on the front.
Yeah, thanks to that, Simon. They're chopping and changing, aren't they? Parts plenty on that Yamaha. You had a double exhaust on Friday, so there was no positives whatsoever about that, so he ditched it very, very quickly. At least Quartararo was slightly more optimistic than a couple of Honda riders yesterday who had brutally tough media debriefs. Joan Mir, who took the checkered flag in the sprint, dead last in 21st place.
So the checkered flag is out then, and everybody taking their times. It's Fabio Quartararo, Miguel Oliveira. So Quartararo finally getting in for some decent lap times, and there goes Franco Morbidelli to the top. So they do change it over right at the last second. We thought they might have an opportunity. There's Aleix Espargaro to the top of the session as well, just as we were expecting. Let's take a look at the battle screen and see if anyone else is improving on lap times. Maverick Vinales is, and Maverick Vinales does go to the top. Quartararo stays in 4th position, and don't think anybody else is improving. He'll be the last to take the lap time. Zarco 21st, Marc Marquez 22nd. So that is it. Everybody has completed their final runs. I'll just wait for Marc Marquez to come across the line, as it will be a little bit of a later lunch. And yeah, Marquez goes 17th. That's it then. Everyone completes their times in this session. It's Vinales, Aleix Espargaro, Morbidelli, Quartararo, Oliveira, Martin, Alex Marquez, Binder, Ralph Fernandez and Bezzecchi, the top 10. We'll be back for the race later on. Tune in now though to Formula 2.